قال الله يبارك الهينا ويحاول عشان يحاول شاهد ما اشتياق والله يبقى عشان هاو وقت قراش وراح الطم ورا بعد fall upon your throat. So honestly, the possibilities and vicious of great meals come with teachers daily. So the men out there teaching the life wire doctrine and city shalom. Today we're gonna get into this video. It's by this news outlet called I think it's Valuetainment. They kind of like redacted. If you haven't subscribed to it and you're watching, I highly suggest you subscribe to Valuetainment because they really going in, man, about how the truth is coming out about how America basically started war. And now they got Biden talking about they want to impeach Biden now because not only is he starting lying to the people, that wasn't enough for them. Now he just came out and told the American people that they basically paying for this, all your tax money going over there, so they can have some money in their pocket. That's how he phrased the quote unquote. But let's get a couple scriptures first. This is Job chapter 9, verse 20. It's coming out one more. Earth is given to the hand of the wicked, because the faces of the judges thereof not where we see. That's why all these things are taking place, because if righteousness, like if righteousness was reigning over, it wouldn't be no wars. It wouldn't be nobody starving wars and lying about every damn thing. So let's go get this video real quick. Don't let it fade in, bring out the scripture. Okay, yeah, it's called Valuetainment. So y'all subscribe to that. If you're watching on your post or your page, let's get this video.
When Trump got in office and he mentioned that there's a deep state, they're like, you can't say that. What are you doing? And when he said, hey, when they asked him, why are you leaving your troops in Syria? And he said, for the oil. They're like, you can't. Yeah. He goes, no, it's for the oil. No, it's for liberty. It's for helping the people. Yeah. No, it's for the oil. It's our oil. And so he.
See? You see how they do? They always tell you, they're going for humanitarian missions, they're going to help the people and all that. But no, in reality, all they doing is illegally entering these people's country and seizing their resources. That's all Esau does. When he tell you that he going to help another country, man, don't believe it, man. He's gonna help himself to them resources. He don't care who he got killed to get them. Now let's get a scripture real quick. This is let's see. Yeah, Job chapter 15, verse 35. They conceive mischief but bring forth vanity. They're really preparing mischief. They always got these think tanks going on how can they get away with stuff? Yeah, he accomplishes a diligent search. He's wise to do wickedness. Now let's play some more. Yeah, Trump airing them out, man. But see, Trump, he trying to put this as a what they call it, his campaign for 2024. He's claiming that he didn't start in while during his first term. No, you can start no war, but you bombed Syria 3 times. You murdered General Soleimani. Now Iran is pissed off at the United States, so you might not officially start a war, but you got the pot on stove boil. It's getting hot. So that's when Biden came in and just turned it all the way up to the max. But you had the water brewing, Trump. You ain't innocent, bro. Iran still ain't forgot about you, you, the Pence, and your whole cabinet taking out General Soleimani. That's why they have a murder charge waiting on your ass. So now you didn't start no war. You went in there alone, but you got the wheels turning. I put it like
We let the cat out of the bag, and they can't have that. That's what he blew the whistle on what's actually going on. Our wars are for oil. Our wars are economic wars, just like what's happening in Ukraine. This is an economic war. We're trying to put a hurt and isolate Russia. We're afraid of Russia and their natural resources and their manpower coming together with Germany with their technology and their capital. And we've been saying that for decades. And so that's why we blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. And that's why this Ukraine war is happening. And people have no idea what's happening, and what's worse is they have no idea that they have no idea what's happening.
Yeah,
That's the crazy.
Good point. Mr. Proverbs. Proverbs chapter 26, verse 25. He speaks fair, believeth him not. There are 7 abominations in his heart. Verse 26. Whose hatred is covered by deceit, his wickedness shall be shown before the whole congregation. And that's what's happening now. Because in this scripture, the whole congregation represents all the inhabitants of the planet. Everybody is seeing the true colors of the United States right now. Proverbs chapter 29, verse 12. If a ruler hearkens to lies, all his servants are wicked. We told y'all, don't trust these people. They're giving you killer drugs, killer diseases. They're blowing up everything and lying about everything. Psalm chapter 55, verse 21. The words of his mouth are smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet they were drawn swords. I don't care how nice this man gets behind that podium. He's constantly thinking about how to get away with destroying. That's just Esau. That's what he's created to do. He's created to be wicked. Psalm chapter 58, verse 3. The wicked are estranged from the womb. They go astray as soon as they be born speaking lies. Let's go.
Part. Can you play this clip? It's so interesting. When you watch this, the guy that's asking the questions is so calm.
Now watch how this man lies. This man here, I think his name Blinken. Watch how he lies.
And poised, and he gets rattled. Watch this.
To look at this and say the reason that the Russian army is on NATO, the Russian army is at NATO's doorstep is because NATO has expanded rather than the Russians expanding. That, in other words, NATO has moved closer to Russia rather than Russia moving closer to NATO. Is that not an accurate way to look at this?
I think that's the way President Putin probably looks at it. It's certainly not the way that we look at it.
See that lie? Now, this whole beef started when the United States refused to agree to not expand NATO further east. Now, all of a sudden, the United States act like they didn't make the promise. Well, it wasn't a promise, it was a covenant. You know how they are covenants. So, after Putin kept asking them, are y'all going to expand further east? They kept acting like they didn't get the question. You know how Esau do. Let's get Psalm chapter 58, verse 4. Their poison is like the poison of a serpent. They are like the death adder that stoppeth their ear. Now, what that means is when Esau hears something he don't agree with, he just act like he ignore it because he doesn't want to answer. That's that little boy shit. See what I'm saying? So, after the United States, they kept ignoring Putin because they didn't want to answer the question. They like they didn't hear it. So Putin said, you know what? Don't worry about it. We got you. Now, this reporter, he's asking some real legitimate questions that this administration, they dodge these questions because they don't want to answer them. So he gonna reword questions, he gonna divert, he gonna misdirect, he gonna use all, you know how he saw all his little mind games and tactics. Check it out.
You don't think that NATO has expanded eastward toward Russia?
NATO has expanded,
Okay.
and the expansion has been a good thing for...
So the reason that the Russian army is at NATO's doorstep is not the fault of the Russian army, it's not the Russian army that's done it. It's NATO has moved closer to move
I'm pretty
east.
sure it was...
True. NATO is expanding further eastward. Acting like Putin, he didn't say that, look, y'all cannot come over here because they pretty much around Russia, through gradualism. Now, he gonna make a good point in this video. If the Russians ever decided to build a base in Mexico or Cuba or Canada, the United States would have a baby. I mean, they would have an aneurysm. No, you can't do this. No, you can't do this. Well, look at what you're doing to Russia. Russia don't want you around them. And who can blame you? Look at the shit you do. Watch this. Now he gonna ask some straight up questions and watch how he do his little psychological tactics.
The Russian are it's not the Russian army that's done it. It's NATO has moved closer to
I'm pretty
east.
sure it wasn't NATO who was ordering, upwards of 15 battalion tactical groups to within.
You see what he's doing? When he's asked a direct question, he places blame on Russia. And that's all the United States ever do. Even in their movies, they blame Russia, North Korea, Iran. These people ain't studying y'all. Fact is that you can't get your mind off them because you want their resources. So you gonna cook up a scenario, lie on these people, demonize them to hell. So when you go over there to try to take their resources, you feel justified by the lies you told. And then you want the people behind you because you lied to them is why you over there too, as well. So yeah, you see why these people are unfit to rule? Let's go. Now I'm gonna take it back a little bit and watch how he try to place blame on Russia.
NATO has moved closer to
I'm pretty
east.
sure it wasn't NATO who was ordering, upwards of 15 battalion tactical groups to within 10 kilometers of the border with Ukraine. And I'm pretty sure it wasn't NATO who put little green men inside Ukraine to destabilize eastern.
See, ask him a question. Is NATO expanding further eastward? His reply, look at what Russia doing. Look at what Russia doing. See, that's a misdirection tactic, a diversion tactic.
I'm pretty sure that Ukraine is not a member of NATO. So
bam, Ukraine is not a member of NATO. So why are you even over there messing with the people?
unless that's changed.
It's not
Okay.
changed, but I'm pretty sure the movement by Russia is
Has
Russia's
NATO-
decision.
See, keep trying to change the subject. Look at what Russia doing. Look at what Russia doing. Let me get a scripture, man. I mean, this little boy shit. 2 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 11. Please get because you're not ignorant of his advice.
If NATO has moved east, the reason that the Russian army is closer or on NATO's doorstep is because NATO moved. Not
NATO
because
is not an anti-Russia alliance. NATO is.
Yes, they are. The reason NATO was formed is because of the existence of the Soviet Union back then. The United States was afraid that the Soviet Union was going to do what the United States is doing right now. Trying to take over everything. Trying to tell everybody how to run their own house. So yeah, that's what we look at. This man, Esau, he just need to be put down because he's just doing too much, lying on everybody. Everybody get tired. Let's get Jeremiah chapter 49, verse 10. But I have made Esau barren, I have covered his secret places. And he shall not be able to hide himself. The seed is spoiled, and his brother, his neighbor, and he is not. Spoil meaning to rob. The reason everybody spoiled himself because people weren't doing the rob. Now, the Soviet Union, the United States was afraid that the Soviet Union was going to take over, so they formed NATO because the Soviet Union at the time was compiled of 15 countries on that same continent. So they was together. The United States didn't like that. They on the sideline looking like Rico from Billy, talking about, I don't like that shit. I don't like that shit. Same thing happened with the pipeline. Rico, I don't like that shit. I don't like that shit. Eating a banana, watching them build a pipeline. Let's go.
It's a
Watch
security
this.
alliance.
Watch.
Unfortunately, for 50 years, it was an anti-Soviet alliance. So
Where's
do you
the
not
Soviet-
Correct. Let's run it back.
It's a
Watch
security
this.
alliance.
Watch.
Unfortunately,
Ukraine to destabilize eastern
I'm pretty
states.
sure that Ukraine is not a member of NATO. So unless that's changed,
It's not
Okay.
changed, but I'm
So-
pretty sure the movement by Russia is
has
Russia's
NATO,
decision.
if NATO is moved east, the reason that the Russian army is closer or on NATO's doorstep is because NATO moved, not
NATO
because-
is not an anti-Russia alliance. NATO is a
Watch
security
this.
alliance.
Watch.
Unfortunately, for 50 years, it was an anti-Soviet alliance. So
Correct. The United States always had something against Russia because Russia would not bow down like these puppets, these coups, these prime ministers and presidents put in office in other countries to do the dirty work of the United States. They tried to do that with Venezuela when Trump was in office, but they backed out real quick when Putin sent two nuclear bombs down in Venezuela. Trump backed off because they had an implanted president down. I think his name was Marcon, something like that. It started with an M, but I forgot his name was Giovanni, something like that. That was the one that the United States had planted down, but the Venezuelan military followed the leader that the citizens elected. See, they didn't follow, the military did not follow the leader that the United States planted down because they knew the United States was setting up a coup in Venezuela. See what I'm saying? So if you got somebody implanted in an organization that's going to do everything you want them to do, you don't really have to start no war to take what you want. Whoever's in office that you place in office just going to give it to you. That's how the United States works coups. They implant people in governments of other countries to do their bidding. Russia ain't having it. That's why they got a big problem with Russia. Matter of fact, George Bush said when he first met him, Bill Clinton said when he first met Vladimir Putin, he said that he thought that Putin was going to be a problem. You know why? Because he felt in his spirit that Putin would not bow down to the United States bullshit. That's why he said that Putin might be a problem. And he was right. Let's go.
Where's
do
the
you not
Soviet
understand
Union?
it? So do you not understand how, or can you not even see how the Russians will perceive it as a threat? And the fact that it keeps getting closer to their border while their troops, I mean, the places where their troops are, you say their troops are, and may have been in Ukraine and Georgia, are not NATO members.
I'm not going to pretend to know what goes in President Putin's mind or Russian military commanders. I mean,
Okay.
I barely got a history degree at the University of South Florida. Well,
Change the subject. See, you see the little tactics they use to get around not answering direct questions? Let's go.
I can tell you, what I can tell you is that NATO is a defensive alliance. It remains.
It's not. It's an offensive alliance. Defense is to protect. Offense is to attack. Now, for the past, 2 years, United States been sending money, weapons, equipment, vehicles. Those are offensive moves, not defense, because you're preparing to attack, not preparing to defend. So that's another lie, Blinken, Mr. Blinken. I think that's what you mean. Let's go.
It's a defensive
Fair
alliance.
enough, but it has moved east, correct? I mean, that's just a
It has
fact.
expanded, absolutely.
Right, exactly.
But
And so
there's
the
no reason
reason-
for anybody to think the expansion is a hostile or threatening move. And
See that? There's no reason for anybody to think that our expansion is a hostile move. Yes, it is, because you refuse to answer the question. Let's get this right here. I got a scripture that came to mind. So that puts suspicion in the air. Who trusts a person who doesn't answer direct questions? And there's a scripture on it. Let me get it real quick. Here we go. This is the book of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 37. But let your communication be, yea is yea, and nay is nay. For whatsoever is more than these cometh of evil. I'm trying to get over. Anybody who can't answer the direct question, get away from them. They are too wicked.
And we've been saying that throughout the last 15 years, man.
It's like you're moving closer to Russia. You're blaming the Russians for being close to NATO.
No.
Yeah, he is.
That's exactly what Hagel said.
That's exactly what they do. I got where it is. Yeah, they like to twist words, man. All day they do. Let's get this one, but this ain't the one I'm looking for, but we can go ahead and get it. This is the book of Habakkuk, chapter 2, verse 5. Yeah, because he transgresses by wine, he is a proud man, he keepeth at home, who enlarges his desire is hell, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied. But gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people. He gathered unto him all nations through this jab bullshit. And he heaped this stuff all nations to him through NATO. It's no coincidence that the United States controls 80% of NATO. So it's pretty much they running. And anybody who goes against the will of Babylon will be whacked. And they're going to get into that. That's why it seems like the United States get their way, because they threaten. You're going to do what they say. You're going to come up unalive. As Junior P. Now, this is what they do. Check this out. This is Isaiah chapter 29, verse 16. Surely your turning of things upside down shall be esteemed as the potter's clay. But when the work say of him that made it, he made me not. Or shall the thing framed say of him that framed it, he have no understanding. Esau think he know everything. That's why you can't tell him shit. And you know what? That's gonna be his downfall, because he put pride and perpetual hatred over common sense and logic. So yeah, he's gonna destroy himself. And ain't nobody gonna feel sorry for the dumbass who do it. Micah chapter 2, verse 1. Woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. In the morning is light and practice it, because it is in the power of their hand. Yeah, these people can't go to sleep without thinking of wickedness. Why you think they got think tanks? You got people getting paid to think of wickedness, how to get away with wickedness. Literally. Let's get here you go. Isaiah chapter 5, verse 20. Woe unto them that call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness, that put bitter for sweet, sweet for bitter. They turn everything upside down. They know they are the aggressors in this war, but they steady, constantly blame Russia. And Russia getting tired of being lied on and demonized. That's all these people do, just to make themselves, just to paint themselves in an innocent light. So they got to demonize. They need somebody to be enemy, even if they have to lie on them. So that's what they're gonna do, because they want to come out being the good guys. Let's go.
Blaming the Russians for violating the territorial integrity of Ukraine and destabilizing.
Why do you care if they're violating those are agreements between those two countries? Why do you care when Ukraine isn't even a part of NATO? Let me write it back. Let's go.
And we've been saying that throughout the last 15 years, Matt.
It's like you're moving closer to Russia. You're blaming the Russians for being close to NATO.
No.
That's exactly what Hagel
We're
said.
blaming the Russians for violating the territorial integrity of Ukraine and destabilizing the security
Which is
situation
not a
inside
NATO
Europe.
member. Which is not a NATO.
I see to you
Other
on that
countries
point.
feel threatened.
Nothing
There
makes
you
me
go.
happier than when you actually see a really good reporter
Yeah.
that has the balls to do stuff like that and is in silence because they're scared about losing their job. I love things like that.
But that's a guy named Matt Lee, that journalist.
Good
Named
on
Matt
you.
Lee. What are your thoughts when you see that?
Well, it's obvious that they don't want you to know the real history. They don't want you to know that when Germany was allowed to reunify, the promise from NATO to Russia was that we won't expand NATO. And then, of course, it did. I think there's 13 or something more countries that they put into NATO. And now they wanted to put Ukraine into NATO or threaten to do that. That would be like if Russia got into a military alliance with Mexico and they wanted to start putting military bases in Mexico. We wouldn't allow that. We wouldn't allow it.
Right, this point I just made. They ain't having it. United States gonna start crying.
And just like what happened with Cuba with the missile crisis in the 60s, we wouldn't allow stuff like that. But we're doing that, and people they don't want you to know that this NATO is not a defensive, it is offensive. This is a war that was started and provoked by NATO and the West. Zelensky ran on peace. He ran on bringing the country back together, right? The Russian speakers in the East, the Donbass. But he didn't do it. So why? Because he got threatened by NATO and the ultra-right, the Nazis in Ukraine. And so they threatened to kill. He knows he's a dead man if he does a peace deal with
Told you. If you don't do what the United States wants, they will whack you.
Russia. So that's why he won't. And when they had a peace deal in March, and that's when Boris Johnson from the UK flew there and said, hey, you don't do this. And he killed the peace deal. So Russia is the one that wants peace in this deal, and Ukraine and NATO do not. They want to bleed Russia economically, and that's why they blew up the Nord Stream 2 pipeline.
Bang. I got a scripture. This is Revelation chapter 6, verse 4. And there went out another horse that was red, and power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth. Now, you heard what he just said? He said that Russia wanted peace. It was NATO and the West that wants war, because they know this is coming because of the fact that Russia found out to blew up their pipeline. So they expected smoke from somewhere. The reason China want to get in their ass because they won't stop messing with Taiwan. So yeah, they came back out this poor night if they wanted to, because too much damage been done, too many lives been told. And just blowing up that pipeline that affects not only Russia, but it affects the United States allies in NATO. So yeah, they're gonna turn on the United States, because what the United States did by blowing up the pipeline, they shortstop all of Russia's plans. And now they're charging their allies, their own allies, 5 times the normal rate. That's not what a friend does. That's not what an ally does. That's what a wicked person does. So yeah, Russia, they heated by that pipeline. And then try to lie on them, try to tell Russia that they blew up their own pipeline. Why would you blow up your own pipeline? You're short stopping your own money. And if they're inquiring about estimates on the repairs of the pipeline, if they're requiring about repairs, why even blow it up in the first place? You see how much sense it don't make the United States story? Because they're lying. That's why it don't make sense. Always have been liars, always will be. That's why it's so easy for them to lie. They had what, 2,000-3,000 years of practice, and now they still slopping with it. Let's go.
And they've
Allegedly.
they've always said they were going to do it, and they did it. And I don't for the life of
And blowing up that pipeline was an act of war. It was a declaration of war.
me, I can't get why the European nations are going along with this. They've said stuff like there was the foreign minister of Germany said, "I don't care about my people if they don't want this. I care about the people of Ukraine." What?
See, he said he don't care about his people. He care about Ukraine. You know why he cares so much about Ukraine? Because if he don't care, he gonna get whacked. That's why. Proverbs chapter 21, verse 7. The robbery of the wicked shall destroy them, because they refuse to do judgment. Now let's get some. Let's get Isaiah chapter 26. This is Isaiah chapter 26, verse 10. Let favor be shown to the wicked, yet will he not learn righteousness in the land of righteousness. Ask of the Lord. Unjust dealers, that's why he's unfit to rule. This dude is, I don't know, there's something wrong with Psalm chapter 73, verse 5. They are not the troubles of the men, neither are they plagued like other men. Verse 8, they are corrupt and speak wickedly concerning oppression. They speak loftily. Verse 9, they set their mouth against the heavens and their tongue walketh through the earth. What that means is all they've been doing is lying on Russia, North Korea, Iran, you know, China, through their media. Media is just as corrupt as these politicians, if not more, because they get on TV every night lying in the face. So yeah, that's how their tongue walks through the earth, through their media, because the average dumbed down American gonna believe everything the media says.
What leader of a country says they don't care about their own people, but they care more about somebody else's country?
That's why they are unfit to rule.
It's crazy what's going on. So people don't realize that NATO has provoked this. In fact, there was a peace agreement in 2014. The CIA helped overthrow the Ukraine government. And then the people in the Donbass didn't want to go along with this coup government, right? Because
they planted a dude in government to do their bidding. That's called a coup. Tried that in Venezuela. Long wait, that's all they do. Let's get this is why Putin doesn't trust America. This is Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 10. Never trust thine enemy, for like his iron rust so is his wickedness. Then we jump down to verse 12. Set him not by thee, lest when he hath overthrown thee, he stand up in thy place. Neither let him sit at thy right hand, lest seek to take thy seat. And though at the last remember my words and be pricked therewith. And you trust this man you want to, you're gonna end up regretting. Ecclesiasticus chapter 12, verse 16. And any speaking sweetly with his lips, but in his heart his acts not so he the right opportunity. All he needs is a change. Yeah, you get behind them podiums, start them sweet lies flowing. Mm-hmm. Verse 17. If adversity come upon thee, thou shalt find him there first. Every time a new virus come out, he already got the skinny on it. He know everything about it. I thought it came out yesterday. How you gathered all this information that fast? Because he the one that engineered it. And it started from the top. If adversity come upon thee, thou shalt find him there first. And though he pretend to help thee, yet shall he undermine thee. You always coming with this. You coming with help people, help resources. And shall. Psalm chapter 73, verse 12. Behold, these are undoubted to prosper in the world, in riches. Let's let this play.
The leader of Ukraine wanted to be friendlier economically with Russia instead of join like the European Union. And that they couldn't have that, right? So that's why they did a coup. And the people, the Russian speakers in the Donbass didn't want to go along with that coup. And so they kind of wanted to break away. Ukraine government started shelling the Donbass. And so they had a peace agreement called the Minsk Agreement. And that was supposed to give them independence. They were supposed to have their own elections and they were going to stop shelling them. They never did. They ended up killing like 14 or 15,000 people in the Donbass over the last 8 years. And now it's been revealed that that peace agreement was never real. The Merkel, the former prime minister of Germany, just admitted that the only reason they did that peace agreement was to give Ukraine enough time to build up its military. So when they finally did provoke an invasion, which is what they did, that they would have a military ready to fight Russia. And so,
Bam, see? Now, guess who trained those Ukrainian soldiers? NATO. But at the same time, they're not a part of NATO. Now, some people ask me, why are we sending all this money to Ukraine? It's more than obvious. Ukraine is fighting this war for the United States. And it's about to go full blown. Sirach chapter 10, verse 3. An unwise king destroyeth his people, but through the prudence of them which are in authority, the city shall be inhabited. Unwise king destroyeth his people. They say they give you a disease that kills you, they get cured that kills. They lie like all. Isaiah chapter 10, verse 1. Woe to them that decree and righteous decrees and write grievances which they have prescribed. Galatians chapter 6, verse 7. This is part of the mice that think you got away with it. Be not deceived, the hour is not mocked forward, for whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. It's coming back to you double. And you can believe that. So every time they go over there with on humanitarian missions, quote unquote, help the people. Remember this. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 3. So when they say peace and safety, then said destruction cometh upon them as the veil upon a woman's child, they should not escape. Peace and safety. How many people did that peace and safety put in the grave when they told you about the jail? Millions. And they still drop. We told y'all. Who should pity a trauma bitten by a serpent or any such as come not wild beast. Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 13. Told y'all not to take it. Y'all gonna trust a liar before you trust the men of the Lord. Okay, now you got what you got. Ezekiel chapter 22, verse 29. The people of the land have used oppression and exercised robbery and have vexed the poor and needy. Yeah, they have oppressed the stranger wrong. So all people do is oppress and take peace from the earth and lie and murder and steal. Proverbs chapter 29, verse 2. When the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice, but when the wicked there rule, the people mourn. Yes. Let's go.
So people don't know this is what happened. And so they just think that one day Putin woke up and said, I want to go invade Ukraine because I'm a maniac. And they think that he's the bad guy. They think that he's acting rationally. We always knew he would do this. In fact, we were counting on him doing this. That's why we did what we did. And they don't know that Ukraine ramped up their bombing right before the war started last year. They doubled their bombing. They were really trying to provoke it, and they did. They provoked it. And the Russian would rather have a peace agreement. The rest of the world would rather have a peace agreement. Not NATO, not Joe Biden, not the military-industrial complex. And so
And he's right. What did Putin say about the United States last year? They are agreement incapable. They broke over 500 covenants with the Indians. Proverbs chapter 26, verse 25. When he speaketh fair, believeth him not, for there are 7 abominations in his heart. 7 makes preaching. He is completely wicked. Verse 26. Whose hatred is covered by deceit. His wickedness shall be shown before the whole congregation.
that's where we are. And people don't know that. And that's what that is. That guy's saying, hey, NATO's the ones expanding. The reason why, he said it, the reason why that NATO's army is on the doorstep of Russia is because we moved, not Russia. And it's just obvious that we're the bad guys. The United States are the world's terrorists. We have 1,000 military, but we have 400 military bases surrounding China since the Korean War. We just
See that? They are the world terrorists. This is the only country that ever used atomic bombs, drop any type of bomb on countries, the United States. Sirach chapter 27, verse 30. Malice and wrath, even these are abominations, and the sinful man shall have both. And he's right. NATO don't want peace. That's why they got Ukraine. That's why they pump Ukraine into fighting the war. They know they can't win.
added 3 new military bases in the Philippines. They just announced 2 weeks ago.
See, now, the United States has been in existence since July 4th, 1776. Now, from July 4th, 1776 up to now, which is roughly 250 years roughly. Out of 250 years, this country's been in existence. They only had 12 years of peace. Those other hundreds of years, they were fighting wars. Starving wars, I would say. So yeah, it's time back for us, because all this dumb shit that they doing is beyond obvious. And it's just a matter of time before the people get tired of this shit. And that's prophesied. That's why we always say they're gonna keep that White House door in for real this time, because you're messing with people's money and you're messing with people's lives.
This is how all empires end. We're overextending militarily while we have people living under every bridge. People don't have health care, a living wage. Half the country can't afford a $500 emergency. 80% of workers live paycheck to paycheck. 50% of wage earners earn $30,000 or less. People go bankrupt when they get sick in this country. We have homeless people everywhere, and that's because our government is 100% corrupted. It's the people.
I'm glad he said it. Let's get Jeremiah chapter 13, verse 23. Can the Ethiopian change his skin or the leopard his spots? Then may ye also do good that are accustomed to do evil. See, that's why we say there's no such thing as free will. This man gonna do what he's created to do, to be the wicked. Now, there is a such thing as free will. Stop doing it. Stop stealing. Stop murdering. You can't, because you are free. Psalm chapter 37, verse 2. The wicked watches the righteous and seeketh to slay him. Let's get I see that. Let's see. Let's get Psalm chapter 52, verse 2. The tongue that devises mischief like a sharp razor working with Psalm chapter 52. Let it play.
People think that's corrupted, like, oh, Joe Biden gave his kid a no-show job on a Ukraine energy board, or Donald Trump gave his kid a deal with the Saudi. No. That's regular corruption. I'm talking about 100%. Everything the government does, it only does it because of corruption. And that's the only way the wheels get greased is through corruption. That's why we can send $100 billion to Ukraine without any oversight, and we still won't send it to our own cities to fix our homelessness or our bridges that those homeless people are living under. We won't even fix our own goddamn country. So people don't realize that this is pretty much a banana republic. We're at the end. This is the end of this empire.
Oh, it's the end. It is the end. Job chapter 15, verse 34. For the congregation of hypocrites shall be desolate, and fire shall consume the tabernacles of bribery. Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 28. For they are a nation void of counsel, neither is there any understanding in them. Second Timothy chapter 3. Let's get it in blue letter, because it's no meat on it. Second Timothy chapter 3. He said it was the end. Check this out. Second Timothy chapter 3, verse 1. This know also that in the last days perilous times shall come. Verse 2. For men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy. Verse 3. Without natural affection, truce breakers, false accusers, incontinent, fierce, despisers of those that are good. Yeah, we got all these people walking around now thinking they on another level because they got blue feet. Where First Corinthians chapter 3, verse 19 says, the wisdom of this world is foolishness. We're Yahweh. Yes, that's true. Let's go.
We're basically Brazil with a couple of big cities that are keeping it afloat.
You think so?
Yeah.
You believe that?
Yes. Yeah. Well, when half the country can't afford a $500, this is what I like to say. What do you call a system that takes the richest country the face of the earth has ever seen and renders half of its population poor or low income? You call that a failed system. And that's what we're living in. And people think we're going to be able to vote our way out of this. Well,
Nope. You can't vote your way out of this because you know why? Elections are rigged anyway. There's no such thing as elections, only selection. So you wasting your time when you take off from your job, go down there and vote because it's already been decided. Just like everything in this country has been pre-decided already. Just like, for example, your bread and circus, your football games, your basketball games, your baseball games. They are rigged. Think these people gonna leave something like that a chance, even though they are children's games? Because these people want to be the most high. They want to control everything and then act like they just bystanders. No, we see. For you, slap it right. Isaiah chapter 29, verse 15. Go to them that seek to happen from the Lord that work in the dark. Say, you keep the going up. Yeah, this the end. This is a wrap. Proverbs chapter 14, verse 17. He that is soon angry dealeth foolishly, and a man of wicked devices hated. So chapter 14, verse 17. And if he do it good, he do it unwillingly. And at the last, he will declare his wickedness. See? For example, you know that train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio? That happened February 3rd. Today is February 23rd. Now, this thing went uncovered in mainstream media for about 2 weeks. That was until alternative media outlets started covering the story. Now, the mainstream media could no longer ignore it. So now they want to act like they finna come in and help these people out. Now, you knew about it the whole time. But see, the thing, you want to know what else happened on February 3rd? That first balloon was spotted. And they wanted to make a big deal out of it because they were trying to demonize China, trying to make them out to be the bad guy of sending spy equipment over here. It was a weather balloon. It blew off course. China was in constant communication with the United States about this balloon blowing off course. What did the United States do? They turned it around on China. They said, okay, China cool on the phone. But when they got off the phone, they demonized the hell out of China. Talking about this act of war and all this. Yeah, they lie on people. They false accuse. They need you to be the bad guy. They're going to lie on you. So why? So they can look like the good guy. All along being the biggest terrorist this earth has ever seen. Yeah, at the end, he would declare his wickedness. Starting wars. Esau is known as the destroyer of worlds. Sirach chapter 10, verse 2. As the judge of the people is himself, so are his officers, and what manner of man the ruler of the city is, such are all they that dwell therein. You got stupid ass president, you got stupid ass. This is how it goes. Verse 3. An unwise king destroyeth his people, but through the prudence of them which are in authority, the city shall be inhabited. Unwise king destroys his people, man. Meaning he don't care. Therefore, if he doesn't care, he's unfit to rule. Second Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 3. Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day should not come except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition. Perdition means anarchy, chaos. That's what he wants. Order out of chaos. He's gonna cause the chaos and then bring in a solution that's only gonna benefit him and be detrimental to you. Verse 4. Who opposes and exalteth himself above all that is called Yahweh, or that is worship, so that he as Yahweh sitteth in the temple of Yahweh, showing himself that he is Yahweh. They want to be God. You want to call all the shots, not the picture you got a God complex. But at the same time, he want to act like he ain't doing nothing. Just like the fake Jews. They secretly run this world, but at the same time, they want to pretend like they just the biggest victims. Everybody's picking on them. That's the same persona Esau wants to carry. Revelation chapter. Well, let's go to the book of Psalms. This is the book of Psalms, chapter 50, verse 16. And this goes out to all these people who pretend they're so righteous, but behind closed doors, just wicked as they want to be. It's like these preachers, these pastors. Revelation 12, verse 12. No, Psalm chapter 50, verse 16. But unto the wicked Yahweh said, what hast thou to do to declare my statutes, or that thou shouldest take my covenant in thy mouth? Verse 17. Seeing thou hatest instruction and castest my words behind thee. In other words, why you front? Why you front like just Mr. Innocent? Revelation chapter 12, verse 12. Therefore rejoice ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. And that is literal. You know we got a short time. Why? Because the Israelites have awakened, and it's prophesied, when you wake up, they go down. So that's why we constantly telling you Israelites, hey, the time for playing and excuses is running short. You either get right or get left. It's as simple as this.
We have to do was get people in the street. So when someone like AOC has 13 million Twitter followers and Bernie Sanders says, oh, they're supposed to tell people to get in the street, shut stuff down, protest, and take our government back. But they won't because they're part of the system. And that's what I'm trying to wake people up. It's worse off having people like Bernie Sanders and AOC in the Democratic Party in government, even though Bernie claims he's an independent. He's a Democrat.
Bernie is also a fake Jew. So yeah, we expect that. We expect him to act like he's a good person that cares for the people, when in reality he's a fucking demon.
And why is it worse? Because it gives people the false impression that there's somebody actually fighting for you in government, and there isn't.
So okay.
And the only way you can have change, you get people into the streets, is when they lose faith in the system. And we have to get them, we have to disabuse them of the idea that there is somebody fighting for them in this system, and there isn't.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click.
All right, we come out again. Yeah, man. A lot of truth coming out. Daniel chapter 8, verse 25. And through his policy, also said he caused craft to prosper in his hand. Stroke of the pen, baby. He can take everything you got. And he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. He shall also stand against the princes, and he shall be broken without hand. Yeah, so let's start running when he say peace and safety. All right. Jeremiah chapter 49, verse 7. Concerning Edom, thus saith the Lord of hosts, is wisdom no more to mine? Is counsel perished from the prudent? Is their wisdom vanished? That's why they're looking stupid right now. The Lord took away their left-handed wisdom. I just left them out there, looking crazy as hell. They lies. Psalm chapter 21, verse 11. Then, for they intended evil against thee, they imagined mischievous device which they are not able to perform. Why? Because they get so shall make their own tongue to fall upon themselves. All that see them shall flee away. That's talking about citizens. It's talking about those other nations which are allies to the United States. They finna drop the United States and bomb this bitch. And this is like a last resort. These are real desperate. Isaiah chapter 28, verse 15, because ye have said, you have made a covenant with death, and with hell are we at agreement. When the overflowing scourge shall pass through, it shall not come unto us. See how they lie to themselves? To make themselves feel better about the lies they told, they lie to themselves. Constantly telling each other, hey, it ain't gonna happen. Boy. For we have made lies our refuge, and the falsehood have we hid our faith. Lies your refuge, you ain't doing good, dog. You ain't got to lie, Craig. Craig's gonna lie anyway, because that's what he was created to do. Job chapter 30, verse 8. They were the children of fools, they were children of base men. They were violent in the earth. Isaiah chapter 5, verse 21. Woe to them that are wise in their own eyes and prudent in their own sight. In other words, you know it all. Okay. We're gonna see where that takes you. Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 16. Thou art filled with shame for glory, drink thou also, and let thy foreskin be uncovered. The cup of those right hand shall be turned unto thee, and shameful spewing shall be on thy glory. That's what's happening now. Shameful spewing. Let's get a few more way to close. Yeah, I want to say these for last. Here we go. This is Psalm chapter 37, verse 1. Fret not thyself because of evildoers, neither be thou envious against the workers of iniquity. Don't trip on them because they about to end up changed. And everything they ever stole, they about to cough it up. You got to run that, home. All the gold you stole, all our scrolls, our relics. You got to run that. Obadiah chapter 1, verse 15. For the day of the Lord Yahweh is near upon all the heathen. As thou hast done, it shall be done unto thee. Thy reward shall return upon thine own head. You got to run that home. Psalm chapter 37, verse 2. For they shall soon be cut down like grass and wither as the green herb. Verse 9. For evildoers shall be cut off, but those that wait upon Yahweh shall inherit the earth. And guess who's going to inherit the earth? 144,000 governing body of the Hebrew Israelites, of the nation of Israel. 12,000 from each tribe. That's 12,000. Well, 12,000 times 12 is 144,000 plus the 1/3. The rest of y'all, heathens and Israelites, Edomites, Khazarians. Y'all need to look forward to slavery. It's just there's something cheese and rice ain't gonna save nobody because he about to take his punk ass into slavery. Y'all depend on cheese and rice you want to, you about to be highly disappointed. And we can't stress that enough, but these people, they're gonna believe they want to believe, even if they choose to believe or not, because they never choose. I done heard Edomites say, we'd rather believe the lie. Okay? You're gonna see how far that lie gets you. That shows you how stupid you are. You choose to believe a lie despite you knowing the truth. That's a dumbass in the works all day, baby. You get one more and we can close. Psalm chapter 73, verse 17. Until I went to the sanctuary of Yahweh, then I understood their end in regards to what they do. They're still gonna end up in the same place. Captivity, baby. Call Allah, hang out the house.